What's the difference between presentational and semantic HTML? Presentational HTML focuses on the appearance and style of the content. In the early days of HTML, developers would use elements like the center, big, and font elements. But in modern web development, you shouldn't use these types of elements because of their limitations and negative impact on accessibility and maintainability. Many presentational HTML elements are deprecated, which means that they are outdated and no longer recommended. There are better ways to get the same result. However, it is helpful to know that they exist, so we'll take a look at some examples. The font element is a deprecated element used to set the font size and color of the text. Here's an example of a font element. This example sets the color of the text to blue and the size to a value of 5. The range for the size attribute is from 1 to 7, with 1 being the smallest and 7 being the largest. The default value is 3 if you don't set the value explicitly. This is what you will see in the browser. While this element still works, you should not use it because the font size and color should always be set in CSS, not in HTML. The center element is another deprecated element that is used to center the content horizontally within its container. Here's an example of the center element that contains text and a paragraph element. This is what you would see in the browser for this example. All of the content within the center element is centered horizontally. And next, we have the big element. This is another deprecated presentational HTML element that makes the enclosed text one level bigger than its surrounding text. Here we have an example that defines a paragraph with 2 parts. The first part has normal sized text, while the second part, enclosed within the big element, will be displayed in a larger font size. This is what you would see in the browser. The text within the big element looks larger compared to the surrounding text. However, remember that font size should always be set with CSS, so you should not use this element in modern HTML. These were examples of presentational HTML elements, but all of them are deprecated and no longer recommended. So what should you use instead? Let's see. Semantic HTML is now the recommended practice. It describes the content of the elements, so it's much easier to read, understand, and maintain. Search engines can easily understand your website when you use semantic HTML. It's also helpful for accessibility purposes because screen readers need semantic information to describe what's on the web page. Examples of semantic HTML elements include the header element for defining the header of the document or section, the navigation section element, nav, for sections with navigation links, the section element for grouping related information, the figure element for illustrations and diagrams. This is an example of a header element that contains a navigation section element. The semantic elements clearly show their purpose within the HTML structure. There are many different semantic HTML elements. You will definitely find one that fits the needs of your project. Great work! Now you know the difference between presentational and semantic HTML. Semantic HTML describes the content, while presentational HTML focuses on the appearance.